In this PowerPoint, we're going to talk about modernism in A Rose for Emily by the author William Faulkner. This short story discusses the life and death of Emily Grierson, who is the protagonist of the short story. She represents the South within her hometown of Jefferson, Mississippi. The story begins with her death, and then the details of the story are told by an unknown speaker through flashback. Emily is confused, disorientated when her father passed away. She does not believe that her father passed away. Therefore, she does not allow anybody to bury him. But at the end, she did allow people to bury him, the towns of people. She is also rejected by the man that she loved, Homer Baron, who is a charming, bold, powerful contractor from the north. She also poisoned him with arsenic so so that this man can be in her life forever. Here is William Faulkner. Here is William Faulkner. A brief biography of William Faulkner. He was born in 1987 in New Albany, Mississippi. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1949 and the Pulitzer Prize in 1955 and in 1962. He died on July 6, 1962 in Byhalia, Mississippi. Some of his major works are The Sound and the Fury in 1929, As I Lay Dying in 1939, A Rose for Emily in 1930. So Faulkner's writing style and technique include the stream of consciousness, which means the story is told from the character's thought, feeling, and reaction, and they are revealed through a continuous flow. He also uses structure disorder, which is the opposite of sequence chronology. William Faulkner does not write his story from like in chronology order, such as starting from the beginning, middle, and end. He writes his story in this order, and he uses the first person narrative story, which means the story is told from the main character's point of view. He also write in long sentences, pages, which are very complicated. He also uses gothic elements, which depict horrific, disturbing events in the story, such as death. He also make sure he also write his stories based on the South, and he also uses many narrators in the short story. By using these many narrators, um, it allows the story to have many themes because many of these characters are have their own perspectives. Talk about A Rose for Emily. The summary of the short story. There are five sections in this short story, and the events in the story are written in this order. The first section, the story begins with the announcement of Emily's death and the fact that the townspeople went to her funeral. And also, after she passed away, the previous mayor, who is part of the Old South, Colonel Sartori, suspended her taxes payment, but now the new mayor comes to ask for her taxes. On section 2 is a flashback to when Emily lost his father and the abandonment of her beloved, which is Homer Baron. On section 3 and 4, it is after her father's death, and Emily fell sick for a long time. And on these sections, she meets Homer, her lover, and this man is from the north, and he paved the streets with his colleague. And also on this section, she poisoned and murdered him, And then no one ever saw this man for a long time until Emily passed away. And on section 5, it is Emily's ceremonies. Her death, her death ceremony happened, and also people, the towns of people discover Homer's death, which is released after 40 years later. The themes of the poem are the themes of the show story are tradition versus change. Tradition is about the South living in the past. Change is about the death of the old South. On tradition, living in the past, Miss Emily represent a tradition, duty, and care, a sort of hereditary obligation upon the town, which means Emily is part of the old South, and the old South tradition are meant for women to follow the traditional rules, and they're not supposed to be working. They should be taken care of. That's why the old mayor did not allow her to pay her taxes, since she is a woman and she's single and she does not have a job since her father passed away. And also um she passes from generation to generation, dear, inescapable, impervious, tranquil, and perverse, which means she's just supposed to live just like a princess, and she's supposed to be taken care of since she's from a well respected, wealthy family. Emily is also a symbol of the Old South because she depends on her slave, which is a black man. She also, her house used to be beautiful, and it was decorated with cupolas and spires and scrolled balconies. The house was a white big house, like those film where slavery film where slave owners own like a big white house. And Homer, the northerner, took advantage of Emily just as her neighbor were gossiping about him because they believe that Emily's family, they hold traditional values that they should not be marrying or being in a relationship with somebody who's not from the same rank as them. That's why they are called Yankee. The people from the north are called Yankee. Teams, the death of the old South. From this code, we can say that Emily represent the old South. When she passed away, the last remaining things of the old South died with her, such as the old men in their Confederate uniforms are on the path of joining her in the old world of the dead as they are old. Um, the themes tradition versus change. Emily, being a monument from the past, she represents the tradition desire, the tradition that people desire to show respect and honor to. And she represents a burden, and she's not part of the outside of the world because of her strange behavior that the residents of the old south aren't able to understand because she her bedroom are her bedroom have like horrific disturbing things that stop time, which is the death of Homer, and also um her death as well too. And this is part of human life since she killed Homer just to keep him next to her forever. And by doing this, it does not mean that Homer will still fulfill her needs because he's dead. The setting of this show story is located in Yoknapatawpha County. And this county, the author Faulkner created this county by using a resemblance of his real hometown, which is in Oxford, Mississippi. Usually, most of his short story, he uses this hometown as a setting. So modernism is a literary and cultural movement that originated from Europe and later spread through the U.S. It aimed to create new ideas and methods in many fields, such as in literature, art, architecture, science, philosophy, etc. Now we're gonna talk about modernism in the story. Emily's house is part of modernism because her house used to be like an Eden, like the Garden of Eden. It was a beautiful house, a big white house, like way better than all the houses around her town. But now, since modernism is happening in the town, her house is getting old, and all the building, all the sidewalks around the town is being remodeled, and her house still was sitting there being old. And Emily's losses, when she lost her father, and the fact that Homo abandoned her, means this is part of modernism because modernism involve um, passion, passion of the human heart, and also the idea of supporting her as being an independent because she lost her father and also her beloved. This means that she's independent. And the fact that the town is being remodeled is also part of modernism because modernism is about progressing and doing new things. Conclusion: what we can keep in mind on this show story is that life is too short and people should not be wasting their life for unproductive things. It is understandable that we can feel angry and sad for the loss of a loved one, but it does not mean that it is the end of the world. People should move on with their life and pray for their lost ones and just move on with life. Know that this is part of life and everybody will go one day. The lesson of this short story that Faulkner is trying to teach us is that um, the fact that a flower can be old and decayed is the same thing as human being. We will all get old and then pass away one day. Nothing lasts longer, no matter what. Here are my works cited. Here are my works cited.